This is Daniel Griggs. Thank you for tuning into The Inspired Daily Grind, where we talk about everything entrepreneurship. But we don't focus on just the success, but rather the grind, the hustle, and effort and will to succeed, to bring your visions to life and make your dreams a reality. This is Daniel Griggs. Thanks for tuning into The Inspired Daily Grind. I definitely appreciate your ears. If this is your first time on the show, go to danielogriggs.com. I'm doing some construction on my personal site. Yeah, I know I own a web design company. So if you see a landing page on that, be patient with me. I got a lot of new things that's coming up. I got so many things that's starting, like new businesses and whatnot. Not to get sidetracked, because we do have a guest today. But speaking about starting new businesses for just like 30 seconds, if you're starting something off, focus on it. Focus on that one thing and build that one thing up. I used to have what I think my mentor used to call it like some kind of golden eye syndrome or something like that. And I'd see other things and I'm like, oh, I want to do this and oh, I want to do this. And he told me, hey, just focus. And so I focused on ATX web designs since 2014. And now here I am talking about building up new businesses and whatnot. But it's only because my company itself can run on itself. I got a full team and all of that. So it makes sense for the moment. That was just my quick rant. But we have a guest today that I'm excited to chat with. And I'm just going to read out her bio really quick, see if I can get this one right. Ginzburg is a best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, digital marketing expert with more than 10 years of industry expertise, helping companies scale revenue, optimize sales and marketing processes, and improve productivity. Jean is also the CEO of Ginzburg. Ginzburg's client range from brand name Fortune 500 companies to innovative startups. Jean launched her book, Win New Customers: How to Attract, Connect, and Convert More Prospects into Customers in 60 Days Using Digital Marketing. The book is a #1 Amazon bestseller. Jean's digital industry specializes in including the following: full funnel marketing strategy, Facebook advertising, customer avatar development, sales and marketing automation, social media, email marketing, product strategy, content strategy, retargeting, analytics. Jean, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm very excited to talk about digital marketing, and it's one of my favorite topics. But it's interesting that you mentioned the concept before. You were like, whatever you focus on grows. And absolutely, I see that all the time with entrepreneurs. It's like, I call it shiny object syndrome, where they're like, this looks cool. Yeah. Oh, should I do a LinkedIn ad? Should I do HubSpot training? I'm like, no, focus on what you need to be doing and focus on your business, and not be like having 10 different pies and 10 different, fingers in every pie. So absolutely.
And I'm so good at telling people about that, because the first year that I ever really just started trying to build up a business or build up the company, the agency I have now, I was like that. That's what it was, shiny object syndrome. And my mentor, he used to tell me that. He was like, you need to focus on one thing. And I was like, I know, but this looks so good. He was like, this is what you need to do, because your mind is going to think of these ideas all the time. Jot it down in your notes, save it somewhere, and then forget about it. And I've done that. And some of those ideas that I had back then, I'm just now starting on, 3 or 4 years later. So there's so many people that's like that. So that's definitely true. So speaking of, how did you start your digital marketing company, Ginzburg?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been doing digital marketing as of now for over 11 years. I actually probably should update my bio to say 11 instead of 10 years. And I was in the digital marketing space for a while before I started my own company. For 6 years, the first 6 years, I was working at different agencies and for different companies and brands. So I got a lot of experience, worked through the ranks, and I just felt one day, well, not one day, but for a while, I've been thinking about, I really want to have my own business. I think I had the entrepreneurial spirit. I felt like I can work much better with clients, working with them direct versus having an employer in the middle, kind of as the middleman. So one day I just, decided, hey, I'm going to start something on my own. I found one client at that point, and it was a pretty smooth transition, because that one client was a consulting client, was kind of almost like having a full-time job. Like, it was like almost like my employer, but it was a consulting gig. Later down the line, of course, I realized having one client is not a good and sound strategy, because when that client leaves, and if that client leaves, you're kind of stuck and you don't really have a more. So that's how I got started, was pretty smooth, a seamless transition into one consulting client. Then I realized, hey, I should probably get more clients. So I started, just finding more clients and building up my agency and diversifying. And that's basically how I got started.
Oh, nice. So you came from a corporate area, and then you started your own business?
Absolutely. Yep. I worked for agencies in the past. It's just kind of how I decided to have my own agency, because I was like, well, I have a lot of experience. I know how an agency runs. So I came from the corporate space before. Yeah.
Now, was that planned, or did it kind of happen? Like, did you plan, hey, I'm gonna go work for an agency, then I'll start my own? Or was it more of like, I'm just gonna work for this agency, and then you kind of had that aha moment to where, hey, I'm gonna go start my own instead of working for this agency?
Honestly, being an entrepreneur was not something I thought about when I first started my career, like after college. It's just more that kind of spirit, I think, came out of me eventually as I was working in the corporate space, and I realized, corporate space is good, but it's probably not exactly what I want to be doing, and it's not really my personality. So it was more like, it just over the years kind of started to become more prominent in me, more prominent. And then I decided, I think I want to leave the corporate space, and I'm much more of an entrepreneur than I am working as. So I think I needed to have that experience to understand what kind of person I am and learn about myself.
So what were some of the challenges when you made that transition from corporate to, working for yourself? How was that transition? Like, I know you said that you weren't planning on being an entrepreneur, but did you actually plan it out? Like, hey, I'm going to save up X amount and then I'm going to leave, or I'm going to make sure I got a client here or there, then I'm going to leave. What was your strategy behind it? Or was it one of those spur of the moment kind of things?
It kind of became spur of the moment now that I look back on it. I should have saved money and decided when I decided to be an entrepreneur, because that's the advice I tell everybody now, where I'm like, hey, you should probably have, at least 6 months of savings for your business, in case you run into a rainy day and for a few months. So it was more kind of spur of the moment thing, honestly. Not the best strategy. I wouldn't advise the strategy to entrepreneurs right now. But the one thing I did realize when I started running my business is just to run it very lean. So in the beginning, I was working out of my house. I just had a computer with me, and I didn't have any employees. I didn't have anybody helping me with the business. So one thing I did understand is like, hey, in order to survive the first couple of years of it being a difficult situation and trying to find clients and trying to get your name out there, you do have to run a lean business. But now things have changed. I have a team. I invest in platforms. I invest in technologies. So it's over a period of time, it became much more, apparent that as my business was growing, I can actually invest some money back into it and with employees or technologies.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's better than how I started mine out. I didn't have any corporate experience in regards to, I didn't have any type of experience that had anything to do with web design. I was really good with marketing. I didn't have I was doing like personal training and other little side things before I started my web design agency. But I definitely didn't have a strategy or plan or anything like that. And I ask you that because honestly, it's more common than not for people that have like that aha moment or spur of the moment, like, hey, I'm going to go start my own business. It's more common when people just hop and start doing it as opposed to planning it out. And I would recommend someone plan it out, but just because things never align up like that, it's just one of those things that I personally feel that you just have to do. You just have to hop into. I mean, yeah, you can be smart. You can be smart about it, but there's never that right moment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I would recommend, if I were to do this over again, definitely some more planning on my part and some more savings on my part. So
definitely,
if I were to make those recommendations to new entrepreneurs now, that's what I would say. So I agree with you that I think it does require some more planning.
Definitely. So I want to chat. I want to chat a lot about the book. Before we chat about the book, I have a few questions that we have some people that hit me up on social media, a lot on Twitter, and ask questions just about successful entrepreneurs. So we'll go through a few of these questions.
Sure.
How do you make your first sale?
Like the first sale in my business?
Yeah, we'll say the first sale in your business when you first started it on your own. How did you get your first sale?
Honestly,
If you can.
the first couple of sales have came through referrals and word of mouth.
Yeah.
Just people that I worked with in the digital marketing industry. They or companies that I knew that needed help with digital marketing. So this was all coming from my network. And I think that's pretty common when you're first starting out. It's usually people from your network or word of mouth or referrals. So you're just kind of still in your own little space before you can really get your name out there. So that's how I started.
Very true. And that's, to me, that's one of the best ways to get one of your first sales, gain experience through someone that you know, or referral from someone you know. So I like that one. How did you get credibility quickly? I guess from this question, it's a very general question, but credibility quickly, how I'm looking at it is kind of like, when did you kind of create that? When did you really get I like to say, when did you have the juice? Like, when were people like, oh yeah, we got to go to Jean. She knows what she's talking about. She's great at this, this, and this.
That's a good question. I think that started back a couple of years ago when I launched my YouTube channel and I started doing a lot of video for my video content for my business and just and adding value to entrepreneurs. I mean, all of these videos are free. They're on my YouTube channel, so anybody can access them. So I think that's when I started first gaining credibility. And then of course, the book really helped because then being a #1 bestseller on the book, of course, also helped. I've also been published in things like Forbes and Huffington Post, so that also helped my credibility. So I started off, I would say, with the videos, but I think every little step also helped in the process as things kind of unfolded.
Nice. So did you get funded or did you start on your own? Did you create any cash flow?
Absolutely, all completely bootstrapped from the beginning. Never got a dollar of funding. Everything has been through just revenue from the company, reinvesting back into the company, or just from investing my own money into the company.
You mean to tell me you didn't go out and start you a GoFundMe?
No, I
raise money from all your Facebook friends.
Nope. Everything completely bootstrapped.
Yeah. So, what habits have helped you be successful in any regard that you can think of?
Habits in terms of being successful.
Yeah, whether it be like a morning routine, daily routine, or anything.
Yeah, I would say having a morning routine. I've been doing that quite a bit. I usually do stretching and meditation and visualization for like my day and what I want for my business and just for my life in general. So I usually do the first 10-15 minutes of when I get up. I try to do that right away before I even get to my computer, before I start doing any work or anything like that, is that I do want to have that as part of my routine, because it really, I think, allows me to, first have a goal for the day and then have a goal just in general and always remember my goals, so that I'm not just hey, I wrote a bunch of goals down, but haven't looked at them in a couple of months. So I think it just makes me a lot more focused when I do that. And then the stretching is just good for my body in general, and I would recommend that to anybody, just even doing 10 or 15 minutes of stretching a day.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I used to do that, but I don't do as much as now. I work out like 6 times a week, but I definitely need to do a lot more stretching. But let me add, this isn't a question from anyone. This is a question for me. When do you look at your phone? When do you look at your phone when you wake up? Like, do you look at your phone as soon as you wake up? Do you actually do it after your stretching meditation? And if you do, when you do look at it, what do you check? Like, do you just check your emails? Do you just see if you have any type of text messages or anything like that?
I usually check after my 10, 15 minutes of stretching and meditation. So that way I'm not worried about things that are going on, and I can focus more on just that 10, 15 minutes of my morning routine. And then when I do check my phone, I usually try to check everything, especially like in the beginning of the day, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But email, my LinkedIn, my Facebook Messenger. I don't usually. I use Facebook in general, like just for my groups. So I have like a few groups. YEC, of course, is one of them. That's how we met. And then I have a few other groups that I check and see like, hey, what's been new? Anybody post anything? But I actually rarely go into my Facebook feed in general. Like I might check my Facebook feed like once or twice a week, if that.
Yeah. It keeps you, I randomly check Facebook, but it's predominantly like it's at the end of, I won't say the end of my day, the gap between the end of my day. During the day, I may see something, post something, or share something. Most of the stuff that I put out is towards like the end of the day. And one of the reasons for me is because everyone knows it's such a huge distraction. And you can get going, and then next thing you know, you can be scrolling through on any social media platform. Unless you're actually doing work, you can be scrolling through for days. And next time you know, you lost, 10 or 15 minutes here or there. So
exactly.
It's a good thing.
I agree with that. It can be a total time suck.
Yeah, for real. So last question, then we'll hop in and start chatting about the book. What was unexpected?
About the business?
Yeah, anything that like happened unexpected, or really there's so many things that happen unexpectedly.
Yeah, I was like,
what was something that sticks out?
What was expected and happened? Because I feel like everything was unexpected.
So maybe if you can give kind of like a story or something, or general, maybe a specific situation that was unexpected and it had you in that like, oh shoots moment.
I think what was unexpected generally for me was, I guess, how much work you have to put in to really get your name out there. And since there's so many entrepreneurs out there, there's so many people doing digital marketing and website design and so many companies, and really standing out from the noise and making yourself stand out. I think it was a difficult part and still is a difficult part because there is a lot of competition out there. And so I think that I would say that was a pretty difficult part in the beginning. And I mean, again, a little bit easier now because like I have my book and I've been published in a few publications, but still, hard to compete with bigger agencies, bigger consultants out there who are doing something similar in the space.
Definitely. And I'm so happy you said that the amount of work that it takes to put in, just because, and I talk about it a lot, just what happens on social media, it's put out there like things are a lot easier than what it is. But everyone doesn't see those behind the scene moments and times and situations. So I'm really happy you mentioned that. So let's chat about the book, Win New Customers. First, how did you start writing the book? How difficult was it to write the book? And then I just want you to chat with us about the book itself and the type of audience that should be buying this book and where they should go to get it.
Oh, absolutely. So how I started writing the book, I wanted to write a book, and I knew it was going to be about digital marketing. So that's my area of expertise. I love doing what I do. But I thought for a couple of years before I actually wrote the book was like, I want to write a book. And it was a goal on my list of things to do. And I didn't really have a plan for it at that point, but it was just one of those like BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals that I wanted to complete over the next few years. And then last year, about a year ago, I met someone who is a coach, and he helps entrepreneurs like myself put together books and kind of helps them through the process. So I was like, oh, well, that's kind of serendipitous. I want to write a book. I meet this guy. His name is John, and he helps entrepreneurs to write books. I'm like, well, this seems like a good sign for me to move forward with it. So I decided to move forward with his services. And he really walked me through the process, kind of how best to organize the book, how to, even some ideas on marketing, how to put it on Amazon. So it was really helpful. But in terms of writing the book itself, I would recommend one strategy that I used when I was writing my book was the easiest way to start writing a book is it's much harder when you're just looking at like a blank screen on your computer or whatever. The best thing to do would be to outline your book. So let's say you might have 10 chapters. Outline each chapter, maybe have like five to 10 bullet points, and then speak each chapter into a recording device. So let's say your iPhone or some other recording device, and then just do that for every single chapter. And then that becomes your foundation for the book. Obviously, it's still a little rough, and you need to go through it and edit it, and then have an editor go through it. But it's a good foundation for getting your book started.
I like that. I'm happy you mentioned it too, because I'm in the middle of trying to write and I won't even say finish, but really just continue to get started on my book. And I got stuck, and it's hard to get unstuck. But thinking about it the way that you put it, that makes a lot of sense to how to outline the chapters and then really speak about it. Plus, that helped me a lot because I'm a lot better speaking than I am writing and, like you said, looking at a white
totally
screen.
Makes sense. Absolutely. That's probably the case for most people, is that unless they're like writers and they consider themselves writers, which I wouldn't consider myself like a writer. It's much easier to speak. And just to keep in mind, one chapter of the book would probably be about 5 to 7 minutes of spoken language. So, if you can put that on a recording device of 7 minutes, then you got yourself a chapter. So it's much easier, I think, to move forward there and clean it up versus like starting from a blank screen.
Definitely. So what's the book about in general, without trying to talk about or without trying to read the whole book? What's the book about in general, and what type of people or audiences need to go and buy this book?
Absolutely. So the book is all about finding customers, creating a strategy for finding new customers, which is, win new customers. And it's, attract, connect, and convert more prospects into customers using digital marketing. So just to kind of outline the book in the chapters, I go into the first thing, which is really developing your customer profile. One mistake that I see with entrepreneurs is like, they really want to get started with digital marketing, but they don't know who they're marketing to. And it becomes very difficult to market to people or a group of people that you don't know, like what makes them tick, what their pain points are, frustrations, where they hang out. So when I first get started with a private client, that is like the first thing that I try to nail down. And we don't even move forward into the digital marketing, pieces until that's really honed in, because no matter how great your video might be or how great your copy might be, if you're putting it in front of the wrong eyeballs, you're just wasting your budget on things that are not going to work. So really honing in on who your target market is like 50% of the challenge. And then after that, I go into content strategy. So when you've actually realized who your ideal target market is, creating content around that. So what are their pain points, frustrations? How is your service and product solving those pain points and frustrations for them? And using video and and blogs and articles and case studies to, depending on what kind of business you have, to really hone in on that and identify those and put it in some sort of content that people can read or see or interact with. So that's the first couple strategies. And then after that, I really get into the digital side of things. So I talk about Facebook advertising, landing pages, creating nurture funnels, and retargeting. And nurture funnels, I think, are also very important because you might, get the attention of someone, say a prospect, but it really takes multiple touch points before that person converts. And so having a strategy where you're nurturing them over a period of time, giving them more content, adding more value, retargeting them, putting them, let's say, on your email list where you're sending them emails obviously with valuable content is really the strategy, because it's not going to happen on the first time around when someone interacts with, let's say, your content. It takes a lot of time, not a lot, but like depending on what kind of products you have, B2C products typically take shorter, but B2B products can take, depending on how much they are, might take, a few months to 6 months or something like that for a person to close. It usually takes multiple touch points before a person will convert into a paying customer.
Definitely, and you're right about that. When you got to continue to connect with people, can't expect it just to happen off top. So that's great. I love you mentioned that. So if you are listening in right now, if my website isn't up, hit me up on social media. If you listen to matter of fact, if you're listening to the podcast right now, or whenever you listen to it, hit me up on social media, or even if you hit Gene up on social media, and I'm gonna order the book for 5 people. So if you want it, I'm gonna randomly pick whoever hits me up, rather be in my DM or tweet me or whatever it may be. Gene, how's everyone able to connect with you? Your YouTube channel, your Facebook, and everything else.
Absolutely. I would love to connect with anybody who's listening to the podcast. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and just go to Gene Ginzburg, Digital Marketing Expert. Also, same thing with my Facebook, Gene Ginzburg, Digital Marketing Expert, or my website, geneginsburg.com, and we can put all of those links in the show notes. And that's the best way to get a hold of me and to connect with me on social media. Awesome.
Gene, thanks again for being on the show. I'm going to finish reading the book. I got the book coming in, so I'm going to finish reading the book myself. And anyone else, like I said, if you contact me on social media, or if you hit up Gene or any type of social media, I'm going to give 5 people the book for free. So that means I'm going to need your addresses, people. So thanks again for tuning in. We chat with everyone next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Inspired Daily Grind. As usual, I'm extremely grateful for y'all's attention, the fact that you can listen to my podcast. Thanks so much. Definitely go and check me out on social media. It's at Daniel O. Griggs across all platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So definitely go and check me out on all of those. I always follow back. Until then, I'll chat with y'all next week.